we specialized in off-brand pets. We started out with a hamster named Pork Chop, and with the hamster we learned about the life expectancy of rodents, which isn't too long, and we learned that when Pork Chop was about 2 years old, and he was very ill one night, and about 11 o'clock at night we dashed off to the Berkeley Pet Emergency Room, where the vet looked at me and said, "You know, bringing your hamster to the vet is like taking your Bic in for repairs." Lesson learned. We had an American Anole, which is a chameleon, and we had styrofoam packages of mealworms in the refrigerator to feed the Anole, and we had orange slices to feed the mealworms, and basically we had the entire food chain. And it was the food chain that brought us to the gladiator mouse. The gladiator mouse was intended to be a science experiment, I guess, at the school. My son's class had a snake, and they fed the snake every week or two. Well, one day they dropped this little mouse in the cage, and according to my son, this mouse said, I'm not down with this," and proceeded to beat up the snake and jump out of the cage. Ben then scrambled all over the room, and I don't know how he did it, but he managed to capture the mouse and bring it home to Mom, who's thrilled, of course. It did teach me something very important that I hung on to, and that was I then realized as long as I had rodents as pets in the house, I didn't have to worry about snakes. And believe me, that was worth it. We had a pair of hamsters at one point, and pretty soon we had 11 hamsterettes. And in fact, I found out after the fact that Ben had been filming the entire life cycle of the hamsters, and the OWL program might be interested in that film because it was filming from the moment of conception until the moment of birth, and this became Ben's science project for school that year, and it was quite the hit, especially among all the younger children. We had the two brother rats. Now, I couldn't remember the name of the rats, so I called my son, and you won't believe this, but I swear it's true. I said, what were the name of those two brother rats? And he said, well, that was Splinter and Kevin. You need to separate them before they're 5 months old, or they will start to attack each other. And they would start being more aggressive, and they were likely to fight, and it would just be the wise thing to do would be to separate them. And so we said, okay. But somehow life goes on, and we forgot, and they never did fight, so we didn't worry about it. And one day, though, Splinter got his one of his feet, caught in the bottom of the cage. And he was trying to get it out, and in the effort of trying to get it out, he broke his leg. So we bundled him up, and we took him to the vet. And she was a really cool vet. She would charge children 1 week's allowance to take care of their pet. So for $1, she made a splint for Splinter. And when we took Splinter home, she said again, now it's really important now that you separate these two rats, because now you have one of them is injured, and the healthy one is very likely to attack the injured rat. And we said, okay. And we put Splinter in the cage, and we put Kevin in the cage, and Splinter, the one with the splint, we put into a bucket that we had. Well, you've never heard such a racket in all of your life. All night long, these two brother rats are trying to get back together with their best buddy. And so by morning, we just gave up. It just was not possible. and we moved Splinter into the cage with Kevin, and I was going to check on them several times. Ben went off to school, and a little while later I came in to the room to make sure everything was okay. And there was Kevin stretched out in front of the water dish, providing a bridge so that Splinter could have a drink.